Good morning and welcome to CouncilMatters. I'm Mick Fitzgerald, and today we have a very special day because joining me in the studio will be Councillor Ciarán O'Moore, who represents Sinn Féin out there in Clontarf. Ciarán, Fáilte, and welcome back to CouncilMatters.
Good morning.
Ciarán, we're going. I just noticed, and I was thinking when on my way down here tonight, we're going through very historic times of late. If it gets any more historic, we'll have trouble catching our breath. First of all, we had the marriage equality. Then we have the gender recognition, and this week you had a particularly Sinn Féin one with the installation, I will call it, of Councillor Ciarán O'Moore as the first Sinn Féin Lord Mayor of Dublin ever. Big night.
Very big night and very sweet victory for Ciarán. She's an absolute wonderful lady. She's worked very hard to SPC housing. She's worked very hard in her own area. The commitment is there. Now, Christy Buck, the outgoing mayor, he was a very good Lord Mayor, but then he got Sinn Féin grounding. And same with Ciarán, she's exceptionally good with the Sinn Féin grounding. She's a people's person and she's absolutely fantastic, the work she does, and she's a lady into it.
Now, anybody who might think that there was something, shall we say, untoward, her margin of victory was absolutely decisive. She got something like 70% of the vote of her fellow councillors. I mean, that is an endorsement by any standards.
No doubt about it. It shows the respect all the councillors have for Ciarán, and each and every one of them afterwards spoke, even those that voted against Ciarán, spoke about the qualities that she has. So she's going to be an exceptional Lord Mayor this year, and hopefully that the people back her up. She's coming in here as a proud Dublin person, but I guarantee at the end of the year she'll be going out and Dublin will be proud of her. That's the way she is.
Now, by a strange coincidence, it's also a huge year for Sinn Féin and for whoever would have been mayor. In this case, it will be a Sinn Féin mayor. Do you think that will be her main focus, or do you think her focus will actually be back on what we would call the bread and butter issues, which is where she made her name?
To be perfectly honest with you, the main focus of Ciarán won't be on the 1916 celebrations or commemorations. It'll be on the housing, what she can do for the housing. It'll be bread and butter issues with Ciarán. There's other people in Sinn Féin that'll be looking after the 1916 commemorations, and Ciarán will only have an input as an official Lord Mayor and nothing else. But it's exceptionally good for Sinn Féin when you consider Sarah Holland, an excellent candidate,
and another CouncilMatters graduate.
And also, you had the Lord Mayor of Belfast and Derry in the Mansion House the other night. So when you see the spread of Sinn Féin, it's absolutely fantastic for the party.
That's at the local government level. Sinn Féin are doing very well. There's no question about that. You've also had Fintan Warfield has just been the outgoing. There's a Sinn Féin Lord Mayor in Cork as well. How can that be translated to the next level? That's Sinn Féin have done exceptionally well over the last 12 to 18 months at local government level.
It's not going to be easy to translate it into general election votes or candidates for the general elections, but it's exceptionally good year at local level for Sinn Féin, and Sinn Féin Council are working very hard to get Sinn Féin candidates elected in the next election. But unfortunately, the present government are trying to buy people off. There's almost a Christmas present every day with them, with the GP care, free GP care for children, the whole lot. But they're not. What has not been exposed is the horrible things they've actually done to people over the last 5 or 6 years with the austerity measures. It's absolutely atrocious. You couldn't justify half the cuts they actually did.
I've got to ask you, what sort of woman is Ciarán O'Moore? Because the impression, the description I would have used is perhaps quiet achiever. In other words, this is not somebody who's going to be there in the photo op and that doesn't really do much. She seems to be more somebody that would work away in the background. Is that a reasonable...
It's very reasonable. Ciarán is not the type of person that'll be in your face. Ciarán prefers to work in the background and get the job done and get it done well, which she will do. And she's an exceptionally fine lady for that.
Something, and again, because we were talking earlier about the previous, what I would terming the historic events, the LGBT, where Sinn Féin were actually very prominent in it. But one, and something I know a bit more about from my time working in the transgender area, I met Angus Osnodig the other night, and I said, Angus, you didn't get the credit. You're not getting the credit for the impetus that you took in relation to a private member's bill for gender recognition. Now, the bill that Angus introduced was at least as good, if not better, than what John Burton is. John Burton's getting an awful lot of credit for it. I saw her getting a standing ovation. Do you think we need to give a bit of a boola boss to Angus and Stephanie Lord for a very courageous step at a time when it was needed?
By all means, but 23 years ago, Sinn Féin are pushing equality, and they're still pushing it. And Sinn Féin will never give up pushing for equality.
Yeah.
And it's in their manifesto, it's in their heart and it's in their soul, equality. And that's what we need, equality.
Well, that's a very interesting one. You would say that, Ciaran, because whenever people of my generation were, if you like, the Sinn Féin brand came up with the Sinn Féin, people always saw that United Ireland meant united around certain cultural or whatever, certain values. But when I went to Dublin Castle on the 23rd of May, I said to people at the time, this is what a united Ireland actually looks like. It's not. It's a united Ireland of different ages, of different genders, of different colours, of different classes, but we were united in a common purpose. And I thought, or a set of common values. And to me, that really was one of the most uplifting days I have ever had.
Very much so. In relation to Dublin Castle, I mean, Sinn Féin really pushed the issue there, and they weren't in Dublin Castle seeking the glory. They did all the hard grafting, they did the heavy lifting, and they're very successful in their campaigns, as they have been. But in relation to the border, I mean, Sinn Féin want to get rid of the border. It's the ultimate goal of Sinn Féin to have a 32-county republic, but inclusive of that is equality for all people, regardless of their sexual orientation, their religion, or anything else, or their colour, in actual fact. We just want a total inclusive country.
Does that include the DUP?
They'd be welcome to come on board with us, by all means, yeah.
But not with a veto.
Oh, definitely not with a veto. Absolutely no way.
Yeah.
No way.
Ciaran, something a bit more local. It's not politics. It's a tragedy, and that happened on the bottom of the the bottom of the Howth Road, Clontarf Road last night. There seems to have been a fatal hit and run. Do you want to just?
Well, first of all, I'd like to offer my condolences to the family of the individual that was killed. Mm-hmm. It's a terrible tragedy, unfortunately. And this is one of the reasons that the DCC are trying to introduce proper cycle lanes. Mm. And in my estimation, they're doing a reasonably good job at the moment. Mm. You can see down the St. Anne's Park there, where they're actually doing the Sutton to Sandymount, part of Sutton to Sandymount cycle lane. Mm-hmm. They're going to run that down to the beach from the coast road. There's an awful lot of work going on at DCC that people don't seem to realise, but they are doing a very good job on the cycle lanes. There's a lot of complaints as regards the Fairview cycle lane, Clontarf Fairview into the city centre, about the footbridge. Now the footbridge is only there since the 60s, but DCC are hoping to replace the footbridge with 3 separate crossings. Now at a meeting yesterday we had with the traffic management and DCC officials from the area council, it was decided that to report back to us on the 20th of July with recommendations, because all the councillors at the meeting yesterday actually objected to the removal of the footbridge for the simple reason so many schools in the area. Mm-hmm. It's from Fairview Village, it actually leads across to the park, and it's a very safe way. Now, unfortunately, it's not utilised enough by people with buggies and things like that. The accessibility isn't great. But DCC have given a commitment to carry out a survey on the usage of the bridge and report back to us, as also they report back to us on the 20th of July in leaving the bridge there and putting a slight detour around the stanchions of the bridge for the cycle path. But what they're actually doing is a fantastic idea for the enhancement of Fairview Village as such. The accessibility into the park, the new playground they've put there, the football pitches, the dressing rooms, it's an absolutely fantastic job they've done. So hopefully with their cooperation and the help of the locals that we can continue with the work.
Don't want to dwell too much on the specifics of this tragic case yesterday, and they just would also like to say anybody who may be an eyewitness, the Gardaí at Clontarf, 666 4800. That's 666 4800. Please give them a call. There is a cycle lane down there in that part of the world. What I see, and again, I don't want to draw any inference about the yesterday's, is that they don't use it. And that's why cyclists, to a certain degree, are putting themselves in danger. And I just wonder, what you're showing us here is looks fabulous. There's no question about that, Ciarán. But I just wonder, if somebody is a cyclist and they're going up the Malahide Road, they're probably not going to go to the cycle lane on the park. I don't know about that. Is there? Has there any?
There is. In actual fact, you'll have to have enforcement with the cycle lanes that are put in. They're absolutely a fantastic facility for them. But, I mean, the guards are going to have to do enforcement on it. Yeah. You can't have people cycling up and down footpaths where there's children, the whole lot. It's impossible, and that's why Pascal Dunn spoke about cyclists breaking red lights. Now, there's no reference whatsoever to last night's tragedy. I don't know the circumstances of it. But in general, where your cyclists breaking red lights or anything else, I believe there should be a non-spot fine for them. Full stop.
Okay, now, I'm a Joey's boy. I went there and... some years ago, I am old enough to remember when the bridge wasn't there. There's also an unfortunate incident with my family in relation to that area, but that's for another day. My understanding is that that bridge was pretty much put in to help the kids at Joey's, as much as anything else. Are we saying that need has gone away, or are we saying, well, the Joey's boys, they're worth the risk?
What we're saying is Joey's boys don't use the bridge as much as they should. Yeah. But there's Marino College there too. Yeah. There's the primary school at the bottom of Phillipsburg Avenue, Windsor Terrace there. Yes. Those children use it quite a lot, where you see the teachers take them out on a decent summer's day, walking across the park, etc. So there has to be a lot bigger investigation and more investigation into the use of the bridge and whether it's actually valid and it serves its purpose there. They're going to put 3 extra crossings in, and the 3 crossings will be flagged with one another. So it'll give a longer time. Okay, yeah.
Now, the other bit I'd be worrying about is that if you've got stop-start there in terms of lights, isn't it going to make the traffic in the morning quite horrendous? Isn't it? It just in the sheer sense of stopping the.
It will. It will. It'll slow the traffic down a little more. But then you have to be reasonable about it and try and persuade people to use the Alfie-Bourne Road a lot more rather than Fairview. Yeah. DCC have to do a lot more with it. Encourage people to go the Alfie-Bourne Road and take some of the traffic off Fairview. But it will, with the 3 sets of traffic lights there, it will slow the traffic down. But then you couldn't get much slower, even with the bridge there, could you?
No, poo. Last but by no means least, because I like to think outside the box, Ciarán, no possibility of an underpass.
No, it's far too expensive. It was questioned, it was suggested.
I mean, aesthetically it'd be much better in one sense.
It would be, but it's very safe. But in relation to what DCC hope to do to the park is, they're putting the footpath inside the park, or the cycle lane inside the park. Okay. The cycle lane is going to remain where the footpath is. But I questioned the safety of pedestrians in the park walking the path. DCC have given the commitment, improve the lighting and have CCTV in there relayed to Central Station. So the safety is paramount to me for the pedestrians. But in actual fact, DCC have committed to fulfilling all the commitments.
So what's the current status? I mean, are they asking for public views?
It'll be open to public consultation.
Okay, so yes. Any thoughts on when that might be? Or
it's going to open, I imagine it'll be open after the 20th of July when we have the area council meeting.
Okay, well, as I say, look, we'll put it up there for the camera. It looks pretty good.
It does.
It does. So, yes. As we will be saying to people, don't get angry, get informed, and then at least you get your views heard. But
exactly.
Look, on paper, it actually looks quite nice. That's but then again, I'm sure the economy looks pretty.
Architect can make anything look nice.
Absolutely.
Paper, yes.
Ciarán, now again, and this is trying to slightly. Not so much rectify a wrong, but at least clarify a situation. A year ago when you came in here first and we met for the first time during the local election, slightly longer now at this stage, you raised an issue and at the time I was quite unfamiliar with it. It was the issue of lead in the water, and I thought, was this something he's just saying for the election? But I wasn't informed, so I didn't. As it turns out, not only were you correct, but you were a very early prophet of lead in the water again. Now, since then, we know that others have raised the issue, and it's got a lot of national prominence even. So we will at least give you credit for raising the issue. What's the current status with it? Because in the last 12 months, you and I have discussed this several times, and I have seen no indication that the situation has improved in 12 months.
Unfortunately, the situation hasn't improved in the 12 months. In actual fact, the situation has deteriorated an awful lot. We had a meeting with the environmental SPC meeting there the other day, and Irish Water came in the name of Jerry Grant. Mm-hmm. Now, Jerry Grant, he just couldn't answer a question whatsoever. Yeah. He's most evasive on the whole thing. Now, lead is a very dangerous thing. It's crazy situation, the situation with lead. In my own house, I'm 9 times over the permitted EU level for lead. Now, if a letter here and the concentration lead level
you're in Raheny,
exceeds, in Raheny, but it doesn't apply to Raheny.
No.
It's Marino, Clontarf, etc.
Yeah, no, Raheny was the original.
Raheny was the original
hotspot,
as you say. Yeah. But the opinion, based on the analysis performed, the water is not fit for human consumption.
Yeah.
Now, there's an awful lot of houses around Raheny, Clontarf, Fairview and Marino have the same thing. Now, we requested Irish Water to supply tankers, because in actual fact I'm going through 3 5-litre containers a day, plastic containers. Now, I do buy them a little cheaper, or even super value in Raheny, which is just as cheap as Lidl. But in actual fact, it's disposal of the containers is a problem too.
Exactly, yes.
Now, what I have said, and I'm calling for the Minister to, on the first boil, if you have Roscommon and Boyle, there was on the news yesterday where Irish Water have taken them off the boil notice. But if you're on a boil notice, you don't pay for your water. But on the day I got that letter telling me I was 10 times or 9 times the excessive lead level, I also got a water bill. Now, I don't understand, if my water is not fit for human consumption, why I should have to pay for water, or why anybody should have to pay for water. But it's a government decision. I'm calling on Alan Kelly, the Minister of Environment, to say, okay, you have very high lead levels, you don't have to pay for water until it's rectified. Yeah. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, now, I'm not a scientist, but I'm just wondering, is there a correlation between lead in the water and voting no to marriage equality in Boyle?
That's possible. Yes.
There's another. But no, it's fascinating that when you look at actually, if you step back from the commerce and you look back at the philosophy of this, I'm a good old-fashioned Democrat, and the Democrat in me says that the primary role of government is to protect its citizens. Now, sometimes that's protecting its citizens from itself. But it seems to me that when there is a known problem here, we call lead in the water the enemy. There is an enemy at our borders. The government should be protecting us, rather than saying, well, lads, I'm going to have to actually charge you now, but we're not going to use the money to fight the enemy. We're actually going to use the money for something else. And that, I think, when you put it in those terms, simplistic, but it tends to get straight to the core of what the issue was. We're being shafted and getting very little in return.
We've been well and truly shafted by this current government. Now, they have a duty of care.
Yeah.
They're not fulfilling the duty of care.
Yeah.
They're actually poisoning people. They're poisoning grandchildren. Elizabeth Arnett was on the radio almost a year ago on one of your opposite radio stations, RTE. Yeah. And she actually said on Morning Ireland, yes, we inform the public of where there's lead going into the premises. Quite untrue, she has not. Irish Water have never informed anybody. Yeah. DCC came out and did some random testing, and this is where they discovered the lead and the high levels, and then it got worse. And then when DCC discovered the high levels of lead, I requested an awful lot of houses between Clontarf and Marino to be tested. DCC were coming out to test them, because Irish Water cannot test them themselves. And DCC got so fed up the amount of testing that they did that they actually gave up on the water testing. They're doing random sampling for themselves. But I was looking for a freedom of information question too from DCC and Irish Water over the last 10 years on the random samplings. Can they give them the readings on it? And DCC have refused, and Irish Water won't do it. So I think it's absolutely disgraceful that we've been charged for water that's not fit for human consumption.
Are they not obliged to provide you with that information, or what are they hiding behind? Commercial sensitivity?
They're just hiding behind commercial sensitivity. They're pushing it from Billy to Jack. Irish Water, DCC, Irish Water.
Yeah.
They just cannot get their act together. It's an absolute disgrace what they're doing. Now, in saying that, there's a lot of people in Raheny who will be quite willing to pay for water, and they haven't objections to water meters, but they want good quality water. Now, I'm not here on the basis of not paying or anything like that at the moment. All I want at the moment is good quality water.
Yeah.
And it's a necessity for the people of the country.
I'm going to then put you a slightly curved ball sort of question. Every night you probably turn on your telly and you'll see my mate Chris's brother, and he's going on about he's a master brewer up at Dublin, and he has to have his barley boiled at 223 degrees or something like that, or it'll burn. Okay, that's good. He's getting his mash and his barley and his sugar. All good quality control stuff. That water that goes into that Guinness is Dublin water. I don't see how they can take the lead. I don't see how they could guarantee that there is no lead in their Guinness at this stage. Am I wrong in that?
No, well, Guinnesses have their own chemical people up there.
Yeah.
And they have their own labs, and they test the water first.
Yeah.
Now, Irish Water, in fairness to Irish Water, they're not sending out leaded water.
Yeah.
The leaded water is not in the mains, it's what comes off the mains going to the houses.
Okay.
Irish Water are giving good quality water in the mains, but it's what comes off the mains. Now, DCC and a lot of private people actually install the lead piping. But if you have a problem with your gas in the garden, your gas main comes in, your meter's in the house or maybe in the box the side of the house, if your gas main bursts in the garden, Dublin Gas come out and they repair it for you.
Yeah.
Irish Water say, oh no, it's out on the footpath. That's where we decide.
Yeah.
But this was decided by the government to try and cut back on the cost, let the homeowners take up the cost of removing the lead pipes.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest, Ciarán. In my experience, this was decided by their accountants.
Possibly so.
Yeah,
I say Irish Water. I've been close for accountants.
Oh yeah, we'll get out the spreadsheets,
yes,
lads. Now, if you go that option, it'll cost you this much. But if you deny responsibility, it's it's very interesting. You should say that, because a couple of months ago, my neighbour said, they were getting their gas done, and the guy thought that there was some leakage from ours. Gas company were out within 24 hours. In other words, gas is just as poisonous as lead, but Yeah,
but the gas company will actually come out and repair a leak in your garden at no cost.
Yeah.
So what's the difference with Irish Water saying you have to go to the footpath, from the footpath in?
Yeah.
It's your problem. In actual fact, it was DCC put all the lead pipes in. So, I mean, there has to be an responsibility on somebody. Now, the grant that they spoke about is more than welcome, but we haven't got the finer details of the grant yet. It'll probably be on condition that you sign up with Irish Water, you do X, Y, and Z with Irish Water. Alan Kelly spoke about a £5,000 grant. It's only exceptionally houses that would cost £5,000.
Okay, yeah. An issue that somebody else put to me, and I'd be very interested to hear yours and the Sinn Féin view on this, is that if there is a grant to repair this, do you think that this grant should be means tested?
No, not necessarily, because they have a duty of care, as I said already, but it shouldn't be abused either. There is people out there that will abuse a grant, and the grant shouldn't be abused. So what they should do is the same type of insulation. A surveyor will come out and say, it costs so much to put insulation in your house, and then you apply for the grant, then you're approved for it. It has to be worked in a system like that. I'd hate to see it being abused by anybody. But there's absolutely no way it's going to cost $5,000 for each house. It could cost $400 for one house, $1,000, $1,500 for another house. They're all going to differ, and that's why there has to be good scrutiny, tight scrutiny on it. But I don't believe it should be means tested. No.
Okay, on that basis then, is there likely to be a difference between, say, people who are council tenants and people who are owner occupiers? Will council tenants get theirs perhaps fixed as part of that tenancy, or would they?
I don't believe so. If you own your own house, you can get the insulation grant. You know, whether you're a tenant or not, you still get the grant for the insulation. So I believe it should be a fair and equitable basis. The grant should be on, but it should not be means tested.
Okay, and is your view? Yours is clearly way off the
Almost
radar.
9 times off the radar.
Off the radar. Is it essentially saying that if it's beyond what we would call the established standards, that beyond that it's dangerous?
The limits is 10.
Yeah.
And there's a woman up beside me, she's 115.
So that's
10 times. 11 times.
Yeah.
11 times higher than
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, would 1.5 be okay, but beyond 3 would be...
No. Well, that's the very reason the EU set the levels.
Yeah.
Because there's no safety above the level they actually set. And the unfortunate thing about lead is it doesn't come out through filters or you can't boil it.
That's what you were saying. Yes, this is the very important thing. Excuse me. What's the status? I mean, I was looking into this when you raised it to me, and I was hoping to get ours. It's one of those things. I mean, do you really want to find out you've got cancer? I suppose, yes, it's a good idea, so we could know about it.
It's an extremely good idea to find out about it. It costs you €10 to get the test done.
Yeah.
And it's well worth it.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's done in Sir Patrick Dun's Hospital.
Okay.
And that's where you go with your 2 samples of water. You have a first flush and a second flush. You take your first flush first thing in the morning.
That's from your tap?
From your tap, your cold kitchen tap.
Yeah.
You let your water run for a few minutes and then you take a second flush. You bring them in, Sir Patrick Dun's Hospital, Grand Canal Street, and they inform you in 3 or 4 days by email, and then you get a hard copy of the results a week later.
Any particular type of container? I've got a nice little soy sauce bottle that.
No. It has to be a sterilised container. Okay. Now, what we were getting them out of the chemist was supplying them all right, but I believe they've improved, or they want a bigger quality container going in, which may be half a litre.
Yeah. Ciarán, we have run out of time, unfortunately. We could talk for the next hour, but I want to say thanks to Paul on the desk. He's been doing such a fabulous job. And Sean Brophy will be coming with Midweek Music Miscellany. I'm Mick Fitz. I'll be back in a week's time. Take care.
Slán,